It is a very good theme song. Hello,
So
all 3 people, at least one of which is me.
hey,
This
that's 2
is,
other people,
yeah.
because I'm not watching it.
Well, I think weirdly the notifications that it sends out, because they're written by my expert copywriting skills, are not revolting absolutely everyone who sees them.
That's good.
Right.
Imagine how many views we'd get if we had someone competent doing it.
Exactly. But you don't. You have me, so shut up. So an impromptu, probably about an hour long, not a late night one tonight, on campaign prep and world building and map making. So I'm joined by Kyle, who is in the process of doing something with technology and music that I don't fully understand. But he'll join in every so often with a witty remark and insightful comment, I'm sure.
Surely.
Not just making fun of me. So, I'm using a piece of, what do you call it, software. Is it software if it's like web based?
Is it webware? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Wait, what would that be?
Yeah, it's definitely hardware, and those are the 2 things that I'm familiar with. So yeah, anyway, it's this program called Incarnate, which I'm trying out. I've used a few different map world designy software before, and I'm quite impressed with this one. It has an awful lot of good features, which I'll go through some of them probably. But what I'm using it for is I'm currently building the capital city of the world that our campaign takes place in. Which is an island just off a coastline, as many islands are. And the party in the campaign, they've been going for about 12 sessions now, trying to slowly make their way. Although I don't think you were initially decided you were going to go there. You must have got pushed there by the DM.
Maybe.
And so you're kind of...
God, you might as well build a railroad.
A very slow railroad. Takes 12 sessions, and I think you've travelled about 3 miles. Bring that forwards on. So yeah, this is where the party's ultimately hoping to end up. Their plan is to get there through a little portal that is in a nearby town called Rill, which is on the same continent in the same realm as this. This is Aximity City, the capital. And that portal will bring them out to this little area, which is where all the portals are, all 500 odd of them that are on this continent. Well, this city, I guess. And so the plan is they'll pop in there and then they can explore this big, massive city. But they're quite a few sessions away from actually doing that. Instead, I think it will be used sooner than that in Deslin's a one-shot series, which I think he will base in Aximity City. So I don't want to put any spoilers in for that. Not that anyone will really care. Right, so I'm currently building in fact, let me bring up the amazing artwork that is the original draft of this city, which we have here. So, this is what, after last session with Deslin, we came up with.
Come on.
The
chicken nugget?
The chicken nugget, yeah.
Yes. No, bring the actual one up.
Oh, you're... Okay, yeah, I'll
Come on.
So, me and Deslin had a 2-hour, very serious piece of work around... where is it? Is it off topic? Okay, yeah, found it. It's so stupid. Right, save image. Okay, so And basically, we just made a little shape, and then we just had a lengthy conversation around, right, what are we going to actually populate this capital city with? What different districts and different areas does it need? And so this is what we had, which is the rough outline. And then this is no, where the hell?
Finished version.
Where do I save that? Yeah, this is the actual map we'll be using. I've got so much rubbish on my computer because of you and Deslin. Pictures of kebabs. Like, what? Why do I have 4 different pictures of kebabs?
Why have we not deleted them?
No. So this was Carl's contribution.
Yeah, that's the finished version.
That's the finished delicious version that we'll be playing. You can see there's a forest area here.
This is the standard version, and now Michael's making an alternate version.
Yeah, the less canon version.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, these are the crispy gorges, and then what do you call that part? The handle of the chicken. Well, yours isn't a chicken nugget. Yours is a chicken drumstick.
Yeah, mine's a chicken drumstick. That's kind of grown a bit weirdly, but it's still a chicken drumstick. I swear.
Yeah. This is why Carl isn't allowed to run restaurants anymore. I actually don't know how to get back to my stupid... I was going to say proper map, but I mean the black and white chicken nugget. Yeah, the original, the Primogenitor one. So, in it, you will see... I don't know if it picks up my mouse or not. Basically, several different districts. I'm pretty sure it won't pick up my mouse. Does it pick up that? This is the question that I could have done with 9 before. Yeah, I don't think it does. Oh well. Technology scares me, so I'm just going to go back to the proper map and just talk you through it on there. Oh, no, I need that. Okay, so, because of the importance of this is basically where everything of interest happens in this campaign and in this world. So, again, brief summary of the homebrew campaign. There exist thousands of interconnected realms. Each realm is different. Some realms are tiny, like the size of a wardrobe. Other realms are expansive and can fit an entire galaxy or what have you inside. This particular realm is the most important one. This is Aximundi, which is where the campaign takes place, or at least starts. And Aximundi is important because it has the highest number of stable portals to other realms. So it's a huge trading hub. And effectively what happened is, over thousands of years, individual cultures and peoples and races went from realm to realm, because every 13 years the realms swap around in their connection in the axis of realms, which is where the name Axis Adventures comes from. So you have the situation where Aximundi, and particularly this island in Aximundi, were of really high value because it was a stable way to be able to travel around these other realms and to trade and whatnot. And so, thousands of years ago, this main hub was built, which is where the portals are. This is basically the most important and most valuable spot anywhere in existence, more or less, in the campaign. And you have, along with that, a high level of intrigue, risk, and danger to anyone who happens to find themselves on this island, what is now called Aximundi City, or anywhere within the connected realms of what is roughly equivalent to the Empire, as in the Empire in this realm, not the Empire from other fictional series. So, there are a number of key players and powers that our party will have to contend with when navigating their way around, particularly Aximundi City, but again remembering that this being such an important place, what happens here has repercussions that spread out basically everywhere that their players could go. So you have something as simple as a standard old dockland. They're nice and simple here, little lighthouse, bunch of ships. One of the limitations I found with this program is getting it'd be nice if you could change the colour of the buildings, which I think you can do on some of the Wonder Draft items. I'm not sure how they do it, because what I'd really like is to have basically the roof colours different in order to differentiate between the different areas. I've not been able to do that, so instead I've tried to do a combination of the ground cover and also the buildings being quite similar and contiguous in style. But the Docklands is one of the older parts of the city, so in the history of this city, effectively, Docklands and Old Town were the first part area to be kind of occupied. And the people who built the original portal area are now more or less extinct, gone from the realm. There are a few of them around that, still get up to whatever they get up to, but incredibly powerful magicians and people of great skill. And we're kind of in the time period where evidence of their work still exists, but no one really knows how to recreate it very well. There are very few people who can stabilize a portal, and so that's an incredibly valuable skill set, whereas before it was fairly common knowledge. And this is because the axis that makes up the realm kind of waxes and wanes in strength over millennia. So at the moment it's quite unstable, and there's not a huge amount of knowledge as to how to deal with that. But of particular note and interest is this here, in the top right. So this is a portal that is actually kind of built into the seabed, and it's this massive archway that you can literally just sail ships through, and this links up with one of the other main realms, which I don't think I've got a name for yet. I was thinking of calling it Albia or something, old English, Anglo-Saxon. Or is that Welsh, actually, Carl? It's Alba.
So repeat that.
Alba is Welsh, isn't it?
Alba?
Yeah.
What's it a reference to? Because I've been out a little bit.
Okay. Oh, sorry. It's Scottish. It's a Scottish term for Scotland.
Alba. Yeah.
I'll see. What's the old name for? Okay, Albion is Britain.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, something.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because Scotland and Welsh is at Alban.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. That initial human realm, something in the gist of Albion, they had this portal that led here, and so they just brought a huge military force and basically took over the realm. So there's lots of human, which read within the campaign setting as your old culture, like European, Middle Eastern, and like East Asian cultures influences. So, but what happened is, because of how important this area is, there were lots of wars for it, and there's lots of competition for it, and then eventually people more or less realized it was fruitless to just keep fighting, and a peace accord was struck, which saw this island become the official, like, central capital of all of the realms and the establishment of the empire led by the imperial family, and the Reichsrat, which is the parliament representations from all the different realms. And there's also a number of other powerful organizations, which is what I was saying before I got distracted by Scottish words. So
I'll be right back, by the way.
Cool. So one of them is over here. We see basically they've each got their own quarter, more or less. So there's the Imperial Palace. This is where the Emperor and the Imperial family live. Yeah, I wanted to go with quite a nice fortified area, but it's been given over to all these trees and things because the current Emperor is not particularly competent, and he's more interested in having a pretty view than having a fortified palace. So it's still got remnants of the old militaristic and pragmatic imperial family, but now it's kind of softened, and that reflects basically the emperor's approach to ruling anyway. And I suppose it is a question as to whether or not he does actually indeed rule. There's also city, so this is the financial force within the Axis of Realms. You've got the banking guilds, the Guild of Clerks, which is basically the bureaucrats and the technocrats that run everything, more or less. You've got the courts over here, and then you've got church, which is an area based off Temple in London, which in the last video I was going on about quite a bit. Effectively, this is where the legal practice exists, and the legal practice is particularly important within this realm because you have a potentially infinite number of different jurisdictions and peoples and cultures and traditions that all have to be passed together into one imperial outlook and rulebook, basically. And there are obviously variations, but it's a big job. There's a theatre district, so you probably can't tell, but if you look at the way the roads are built on this map, they're very wiggly, except for in the theatre district, where they're very uniform and straight and everything's on a grid, although it's quite a small district, so you can't really tell. Theatre district's broken up into the Red Theatre and Purple Theatre. These are two kind of competing licensed theatre associations, I guess. The Emperor, or one of his ancestors, created, because originally this was something much older. It was torn down and it was rebuilt on a grid because the Emperor didn't want to travel very far from his palace in order to be able to go to the theatre, which is basically all that the Emperor does nowadays. Then there's Guild, so this is your more traditional guilds, smiths and masons and woodworkers and whatnot. So who are quite a power within the various realms, because if you want something built, because of the bureaucracy and the constant paperwork, you have to go through a registered guild craftsman. Old Town, so this, along with Docklands, was the original city that developed, and this used to be the Mage's Tower, but now it's been taken over by an organisation that the party is somewhat aware of, which goes by many names, one of which is the Syndicate. This is actually a group that was kind of built by Deslin with his backstory. And effectively, it's a quasi, mostly criminal organisation that also has links and interests in various legitimate and equally also illegitimate interests around the various realms. So they moved in and took over the old Mage Tower. Now, the reason they took over the old Mage Tower is because the the arcane power of having this many portals in such a great concentration means that the surrounding area is very unstable in terms of magics. So as this kind of got focused, it became more and more difficult for the mages of Old Town to actually do their magic. So large parts of the city are either more viable as areas to cast magic or do magic research or whatever it else is that the mages are doing, whereas others are kind of arid in terms of magic saturation. So the mages actually, and in this realm, outside of the characters and like NPCs they'll meet, generally magic isn't a huge thing. It's still quite rare. So the mages aren't that big of a force, but they're further diminished in their in their kind of influence because they have to constantly move around the island, and sometimes perhaps even not on the island. Sometimes they might just have to get a fleet of boats and go off to try and find these smooth spots in the arcane fold that's being disrupted by the portals that we have here. So at the moment they're over here, so they're not moved very far. But every few decades they'll move and go and rent a bunch of space or take over buildings, and most people let them because they offer useful services in exchange. There's also this area which I haven't built yet, which will be the Parliament area. This is where the Reichsrat will operate, and then this will be the theological area, which is why there's this big massive cathedral here now, and this is the military area. So the part of the agreement for this island when it was kind of made the capital is there was a lot of toing and froing between the different forces. So the Imperial Palace is in competition with city and church, even though they're all kind of interdependent. But then all the way over here you have the military, the single biggest threat to the imperial rule. Obviously, an empire of thousands of different realms, you need to have a pretty good military. They're also in charge of protecting this particular portal, because if you really wanted to and you had access to it, you could just sail a fleet of warships through here and be right next to the capital city, which is basically how this land was originally occupied. So it's kind of been super defended, and the military just has a huge presence here, which is what I'm currently building. There are also, just of interest, other forces of a military or paramilitary nature. In particular, there are those who guard the portal specifically, who are the elite martial forces, who are based here in the portal area. I don't have a name for that yet. Maybe something like Enclave or Bastion's a bit too commonly used. So I'm currently building a dock here. Now, back to the use of Incarnate. So basically, you have a selection of tools on the left. It's not the best selection, but the main one that I seem to be using is Stamp. This basically lets you pick an item and stamp it on to the map. They have a pretty good selection. There's a few different themes. There's also sheep, which is very good. It's not the best range of themes, if I'm being honest. There's there's your standard fantasy one here, which is pretty good. I've not really got very many complaints about this one. But then the other ones, like the elf one or the eastern one, I mean, the dwarves has basically nothing. Deserts, Dark Citadel, nothing. A fair bit for the Babylonian, which is the theme that I'm currently using for the what do you call them? For the military bomber, because this was one of the first things built. There is also jungle, which doesn't really fit with what I'm currently doing, but still, there's not a massive amount. It'd be nice if they had a few more themes or the ability to modify themes. So I'm currently building a dock. Now you won't actually see much of the dock, so I need something that will give a clear indication that yes, this is a dock. In fact, before I place that crane, which is what I was going to use, I was going to put some more cliffs in. So I found that these cliff pieces make a huge difference to your map. It really adds some depth to it. So I don't really need to worry about there because it's behind this building, but you can really start to pull it together. It's difficult to try and find the right angles, I think, but you can eventually get it more or less how you want it. And that one there. So I just need one to bridge the gap there, which I think this will do. Yeah, let's just shrink this one down a little bit. Okay, so I've now added in a cliff. Great. If I want to colour it in, I can go here. Now there's texture and there's colour. At first I was using colour and I thought it was really good, except that it doesn't remember what colours you've been using. Well, it has them here, but then once that's gone, it's gone. And there doesn't seem to be an eyedropper unless I'm missing it, which seems like a bit of an oversight. So this area I'm probably going to keep fairly sandy. So if I have a look at the different textures, we've got desert. Desert seems like a good immediate choice. I can, if I go up, oh yeah, I want to do just a normal shape. Way too big. Bring it down, and then just colour in where I want it. No, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but I like to try and keep it neat, because the best thing about this program, application, whatever it's called, is that it's got very high definition. So you can go up to 8K at the moment, which I never remember how it works. I don't know if I like those rocks. Do they have one without the rocks? No, that's too sandy. Okay, that's annoying.
Is there maybe like a coastal theme or anything with some sand?
Yeah, they're just like plain desert, but they have like the high definition stuff, which looks better. But because it's high definition, they've put in like little rocks and stuff.
Yeah.
And you can't change the scaling on it, so it just looks like there's massive boulders just lying around in the middle of this military encampment, which doesn't quite fit in with the setting I'm going. So do you remember, Carl? Is it that 4K is actually like exponentially larger or better resolution than normal 920 by 1080?
Yeah, so
it's not just like it's not like quadruple it, is it? It's more than that.
It is. No, so 4K is for 1080p, like in a square.
Yeah.
It's 1080p times 4. That's
okay.
4K.
I thought because
and
of
8K is for 4Ks.
Right, so it's actually like 24 times as
Yeah, it's like
detailed.
16, I think.
Right.
16 1080p's, I think, is a 4K. 8K.
So yeah, it can go up to a very substantial level of detail, which is pretty nice because it's enabled me to properly, if I just zoom out, so if that's the map, I like that I can have the big text here to show, right, okay, theatre, church, city, guild, great. But if I say to the characters, okay, you arrive in the Docklands, and you receive a note that says that you have to meet someone on Finns Road, near the Salt Green Inn. Or say, someone's going to meet you at Salt Green Inn. Oh, where's that? Oh, it's on Finns Road.
You don't have to make 20 different maps, basically.
Yeah.
Just make one big one.
You can then, and I think it adds to some of the fun if the players can actually go, right, bring up the map. Or, okay, we're going to go and assault the Vagabond Palace here.
Yeah.
What route do we want to take? Well, we could go down Docklands, or we could go down Harbour, and actually, right, we could just go round this way. It's so much easier than, than trying to either explain it through mind magic. And I also just think there's something nice about having it on a normal map instead of a battle map.
Yeah.
Battle maps are great, but you're not always going to be battling. So, let's say you want to break into one of these buildings. We could do pretty much all of that in just theatre of the mind.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You don't need to have, but I think having it just here, it's really nice.
Exactly.
It also allows my penchant for naming things to just be fulfilled. I like it to name. So you can already see the difference that the cliff makes to this and how it looks compared to over here, where it's just sand going into water. It's already much sharper, much crisper, and I think much fancier. So let's just finish off this. So the idea being, when you come through this portal in your ship or your fleet or your whatever the water version of a caravan is, you are basically trapped. You are contained. It is then up to you to show that you shouldn't just be fired on. Most of the time, they'll be expecting someone at a specific time, and then they'll say, "Oh yeah, that's the right ship." And then you can. There's a little dock here which you can't really see in this wall, more or less, where you can go and do your paperwork, everything fine, sign off. One of the gates opens, you go out, you leave. Perfect. If you were to try and invade, though, you would just find yourself basically surrounded by soldiers who are very high up through very thick walls. And even if you are somehow able to get off your ship and get into the fort, you've got to fight your way through an elite massive military fort before you're even out into the city. So it's almost like a tower defense game, I think. You're just trying to get through. So it's actually, I suppose, a fort that's designed to keep you in rather than keep you out, which is, I suppose, an interesting take on it.
That's really cool, actually.
So let's just put some stuff in to make it clear that there is a dock here, even if you can't see it. So I think we need a, what do you call it, a crane. Cranes are things that docks are. One of the other limitations I found with this program, unfortunately, is because the time zone that our story's set in isn't a standard fantasy time period. We're actually like late 1700s to mid 1800s in terms of equating it to normal real life time zones. Yeah, so there isn't like a simple ironclad design, and that's fine because that would be rare.
Wait,
but
is there trains?
Trains exist, yeah. So this basically the steam engine has been invented in the last 20 years or so in game.
So very limited.
Very expensive, and this is why when the party wandered into the vineyard and saw a selection of like cannons, that what's his name? Calbor. The Calbor had collected, they were so valuable because as a technology they'd only been around for like 100 years in commercial warfare, in equivalent modern warfare. So there's no cannon models, which is fine. And other things like horse and carriage would be the main form of transport, but they don't have those really. It tends to be horse and cart. I don't actually know if they even have that in this version, but little things where we could just do with updating it slightly, but it tends to work out fine because I don't think there's a huge deal different. Like electricity doesn't exist yet, is I think the main thing. If electricity existed, then it'd be really difficult to say, right, why is there like a Babylonian ruin here? Well, it's because it was built by people from hundreds of years ago, and we don't have technology that's significantly better yet. So we keep it. People write with quill and ink and basic kind of pen designs. people cook with fire and ovens and fairly viable. I'm trying to think how to phrase it. It doesn't feel too disjointed, I think, that we're in a slightly more up-to-date era in our campaign, rather than a traditional, like, medieval. Because I think a lot of the D&D games aren't medieval anyway. In setting. It's more like Romance period interpretation of medieval. Like, there's lots of knights and lots of maidens and kings and princesses and heroes, rather than just a bunch of villains and serfs toiling for turnips and then dying. But again, I may be reading into it ever so slightly too much. So I want something to work as a warehouse. So let's have a look back. Where's Babylonian? Here we go. House, market. Will market do as a warehouse? Yeah, that'll do. So I can just place, and I can make it bigger or smaller, but I'm going to keep it roughly that size, because that looks fine. That will do as a warehouse. And then I think what I was going to do for just the rest of this little bit here was just have, like, houses, a residential area for the soldiers or their families to live in. So, there are also statues, which are quite cool. So they have a number of, well, this is slums, which maybe isn't quite as nice as I was thinking. Because in this setting, it's kind of a professional soldiery. It's not a rabble type situation. So, yeah, they'd probably have something better than slums, but let's see how it actually looks. So I can select to place multiple of them, and I can select the area that I want to place them in, and I can select the density. So let's turn the density down. I want them fairly tightly packed together, but not too ridiculous. And I think these are actually a bit too big, so let's pop them down to a 14. And let's just try placing a whole bunch. One of the things this program does seem to do very well is figure out roughly along the Z index where you want things in terms of their, like, closeness to the camera. Don't want that. So you can just, like, copy paste. You can just stamp stuff down, and it won't automatically just plop it on top. It will try and figure out, at least I think it's trying to figure out, what the most likely place for you to actually want this stuff to be is. So that's not quite enough slums for it to look like actual slums. It just looks like a bunch of buildings that I've put there. So let's, yeah, I'm going to undo that. So it has pretty good memory for doing and undoing. The, like, cache is pretty good. That's a good point. Do you say cache or cache, Carl?
What do you mean?
So when you clear your
cache. Oh yeah,
you
cache.
say cache.
I say cache.
See, I think I'm the only person who knows cache.
Oh, yeah?
I don't really know why I say it that way.
I only ever heard people say cache. I don't know. Maybe it's just weird.
Yeah, I think it's because I assume it's a French word, and so it should be pronounced. It's like
yeah,
a gilet instead of a gillet.
Yeah.
Right, there we go. That's a bit more slummy. Although they are now basically on top of the cranes, but this is just a military fort. This isn't a main harbour, so I think they don't necessarily need all of those cranes. I think one will do. And then I'm just going to put... What have I selected there? I just want something to just show this is like an industrial-ish part of the area. Yeah, that'll do. Actually, no, it won't. I don't like that. Undo that. Right. So I feel I need a few more things here, because this is not the prettiest. I think it's because the road just ends. So what can I put there? Let's look for some archways. Yeah, that'll do. And then, alright, I don't want to plant multiple archways. I just want the one. I want it to be quite small, and I want it to be at that angle. But I want it to kind of mask over where the road ends. There you go. I think that looks better. Yeah, I think that's good. Maybe another tower, actually. Let's grab one of these little towers. Come here, tiny tower. It's okay. I got attacked by one of my chickens today.
By your chick? What?
Yeah, well, I say attacked. I was fixing their water thing, and she was just really impatient and wanted the water, so she was just pecking the water off my hands. But I don't know if you've ever been pecked by chickens. It's not very sharp, but they have a lot of force in it. So it's just like, ow, ow, ow. Stop it. You're not helping fix it. Okay, so we've got now. I think that looks a little bit better. It looks more like a slum area. My problem is, this has actually been really difficult to build, because I've tried to think from a practical perspective. Okay, this whole thing exists to protect this portal. There needs to be some real strategy put into thinking, how do you get out of this area or into this area? Hence the little narrow road of death going on. But if you had to defend this area against an invading army, you wouldn't want loads of stuff cluttering up your way, or would you? Would you want civilians to hide behind trees? No. Maybe I should just put loads of trees.
What do you mean civilians?
Well, so I've put a bunch of houses over here in the more the bit away from the route that an invading army would take.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm looking at this area, and it's very empty. But I don't want to put a bunch of houses there, do I? Or do I? Because there hasn't been an invasion in 1,000 years or something.
But would they even allow housing there?
Well, that's what I mean.
It's closed off from...
Yeah. So, yeah, actually, that's a good point. Yeah, would they actually allow civilians past that point? So I think they wouldn't. So let's put an arch in. Yeah.
It's more think what they would use that space for.
Storage.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine some clutter would be there at this point.
Yeah, just
like a hangout point.
Over the years. That's where they'll go on dates. Okay, yeah, got another gate in. Gates are good. Gates keep out.
They're going gates.
Ah, dear. Right, so one of the problems with this, though, this, what's it called, Incarnate, is that it doesn't autosave.
Oh.
Yeah. And I have noticed, I think it might be the computer I'm using rather than... Because my laptop saves this in 10 seconds. It's a piece of crap 2008 computer that I'm using that, has trouble doing it. But it does have quite a cool feature to remind you to save, which is that down here it says just save now, right? So, okay, that's fairly standard. You get that in Office and whatnot. Let me just make some changes. So let's go palm trees. Although that doesn't really make sense because it's in the same place as temperate trees, but whatever. It's a fantasy setting. So I've just placed a bunch of palm trees. It tells me here how many changes I've made since I last saved. And once you get up to a certain amount, I think it's over 100, it will basically say to you, hey, I noticed that you've done a lot of changes there. You maybe want to save it, but it won't automatically do it for you. Which is... but equally, even though I'm working on a 4K map, as in the map I'm editing is 4K, the actual map that I print out is 8K, on a absolute piece of garbage computer. I've not had any crashes or anything, he says, as he jinxes it, and it's no doubt about to crash. Let's plant some palm trees. There you go. That's looking a bit more populated. Right, there we go. So that's one military district done. Where I'm sure the party will eventually end up being brought before someone who works there for causing trouble in the city.
Right.
So, yeah, while they're, so this is like a proper full-on professional military, and so they have a chain of command, etc. They have kind of a subsection that's specifically for the guard in this city. So that's going to be interesting because it means that the average guard on specifically the island of Aximundi City should be significantly or reasonably better than a standard guard on like a little village.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also,
your guard.
Yeah, can basically pull down the might and the resources of an entire military industry if they need to.
Mm-hmm.
So
would there be? I imagine. So the guards at that fort top right.
Yeah.
I imagine those will be either separate or some sort of higher ranking people that get to like guard that.
The HQ up here.
Yeah.
But there's also guard stations in all the districts.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm just saying. I imagine the ones that guard the fort.
Oh, they're like elite.
Yeah, they're a lot better trained and
they
have a bit more of a responsible job, I think, than just petty crime stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I suppose it's like you have soldiers and then you have like paramilitary police of the city guards.
Yeah.
So like the Imperial Palace, that has its own guards that are loyal just to the Emperor. And the same with
the Palace Guard.
Yeah, the same with the portal area. That has like the best of the best because it's so vitally important. And one of the main issues that they face is because the portals shift every 13 or so years, you could theoretically end up with a portal in the middle of the capital city that's linked to a realm that's just full of like ogres who've just taken over and are going to try and come through and just kill everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually quite
so
interesting.
For the shifts, I imagine there's a lot of preparation and stuff. And
basically everyone from here just moves into this big circle, which is why there's nothing allowed here. You're not. There's no buildings or anything. It's just clear so that if anything does happen, they can fill that space with as many bodies as they need, and still protect the city as a whole. But basically, if they lose that, then the city's lost anyway. And hence why the Emperor lives
there's the palace
on a
at the end,
little island, so they can just blow up this bridge, and then he can just stay on his little island until safety comes.
And just imagine some smaller little things where like a smaller boat can come and extract them and stuff.
So there's a few main docks, but also because it is fantasy and it kind of fits in with the time period we're going with, there are airships in this world. So I guess the Emperor could just go get on his airship and float off while the most valuable prize in the Empire just gets taken away from him. Poor Emperor. He's useless. So, okay, I'm happy with that. Happy with the military fort. So, Deslin had a really good idea that might be quasi-useful to Jacob's character, actually, to know where this is. So you're familiar with the Guild of Colonists, right? That every so often an empty wasteland type realm will join the network of the axis of realms every time there's a shift, and so the Guild of Colonists sends out colonists to go and build this, like, settlements and not terraform but populate these realms. Or if it is a realm that maybe the atmosphere, the atmosphere is not great, they could send a mage with them to try and fix that. And so they have to train up people to be able to handle all sorts of different environments and to just be really sturdy and hardy people. So Des then came up with the idea, because I was saying I don't think that the religious, like, leaders in this world are going to be happy about being right next to this massive military fort. So I wanted some kind of buffer zone, and he recommended that it could be like a no-go zone almost, that's used by the Guild of Colonists to train their colonists up. So I was basically going to put like a forest and a little farm area in it, and then people can also just go there as like Central Park in New York kind of thing. So I think I might do
that's interesting, actually.
that now. But again, the limitations that I'm finding with this is getting the different designs, getting some variety. So, as what kind of theme would the Colonist Guild have? Because the Orcish stuff doesn't suit. There is the Viking. Let's have a look at the Viking stuff, but it's all snowy, which is going to look weird next to this, like, Middle Eastern style massive forts. Which, again, it's a fantasy series. It can be a bit. Oh, they have it without the. Let's have a look. Does that look like something that people could just throw together?
That?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, even though they're one of the main guilds and they're actually very important, their whole ethos is that kind of self-reliance. So they didn't use builders, they didn't use mages, they just built it. Same as they would build it on the realms that they're going to.
Yeah.
And so some people are just really annoyed because you have this super valuable real estate that's been kind of promised to this guild of people who just build little stone and thatch houses on it. Right, so same as before, I'm going to put in some cliffs just because that really adds to it. And I think I'm going to expand out a little bit here so that I get a smidge more space. Because when I built this, I unfortunately built it way too far in the northeast. In the upper right-hand side of the map. So it looks a little bit like, if you zoom all the way out, everything's up here. So I think I'm just going to put a really big title here, or a key maybe, so you can kind of tell what things are. So let's go do this cliff work. So we need the thin ones, which are the cliffs where they're facing away from you. Size 14 is what I'm using. So one of the good things about this is, and what I want to try using it for next, is you can. They call it regional map, so I don't think it's really designed for city building. I think for city building, they think that you should probably be using the top-down view. But the regional one is nice because, firstly, it's in like HD, 3D, whatever, the isometric. But additionally, it means that you could just do a really zoomed-in area. So if you wanted to just have a fort, you could build the fort, and you could have it very nice in 3D. And I'm quite keen to try doing some scenery stuff with it. So I'm also showing regional areas, which I guess is why it's called regional. So showing off a swamp or a mountain or a vineyard with an orphanage would have been a good one to have.
Yeah, instead of a battle map, right? Like a big
Yeah,
battle map.
so it's like a step between. And I think it is quicker than a battle map because you don't have to really worry about getting it accurate. You don't have to worry about spacing so much.
Yeah, you just
make it look pretty.
Exactly. You just put a few things together, represent what's there, and then you're done. Other than worried about every room and etc.
Yeah, which is one of the worst things. Was one of the problems I found with Dungeon Draft was I'd build like the outside of stuff. So okay, right. So this is where I've got the vineyard. This is where the sewer goes. This is where the barn is. Here's the trellises of stuff. And then it'd come time to put stuff in the rooms. And then it's like, okay, right. So it has to be interesting enough that people are actually going to look at it. But I can't be bothered to just fill every room with stuff.
And it feels like unnecessary work, right?
Yeah, it's like in The Sims when you'd have like you build a massive house way bigger than you need, and then you would get bored after about 5 minutes because you realised you didn't want to go through and look and compare the same 4 televisions you could have to try and get some variety in the house. So you just have empty rooms. Or like when rich people buy mansions and they don't have anything to put in it. That's why when I buy mansions, I always make sure to just fill it with like old plastic bags. Yeah, no comment there, Carl. For anyone who's listening, Carl isn't just ignoring me, he is actually working on something.
Yeah, sorry. if I'm ignoring you, that's because I can't hear you at the moment.
I just thought I should clarify that so they don't think that you're just so disinterested in me.
Did you have anything
Nothing
specific?
important. I was just being silly. Right, okay. So I think a nice green's going to do well here, and because it's going to be a real mixture of like forest and stuff. I'll just get the rough outline. I think this will do, and then maybe bring it out a bit here, taking up some more of the coastline. Let's see what that'll look like in. Yeah, I think that'll work out quite nicely because then we've got really high density stuff here, really high packed here, and it's going to be the same basically for this whole half of the island. Then we're going to have, a little bit more shallow density here, a bit more greenery, and yeah, I think that's going to work out nicely. Just going to double check my my chicken nugget map. Let's bring that up. There it is. Okay, so originally I had the plan of the portals with gardens around them, diplomatic quarter. I haven't really included that. I've kind of moved everything eastward for that. So the bottom chunk is actually pretty accurate to what I've got. The guilds, the bar, the syndicate, the dark, etc. The residential. So I think really it was going to be predominantly religious and residential, that area, and I think I'm happy with just giving up a little bit of those areas in order to be able to fit in this colonist guild part. So this is, as I say, this is where they're going to be stealing people for the hardships that they're going to face in their new lives as colonists on newly discovered realms when there's a great shift and there's high levels of anticipation. And of course, a huge amount of logistics that goes into it. So although these buildings will look fairly rustic, going back to the bureaucracy theme, which runs throughout this setting, as basically the players don't know it yet, but I'm going to make it so that by the end of it, they hate bureaucrats with all of their hearts, because bureaucracy is the ultimate villain. Anyway, So, I don't know why I'm doing this so small. That's stupid of me. There you go. Yep, that's nice. Just try not to... This is the beauty of the isometric system. You can hide so much crap and lazy finishing work behind walls and shapes. Like up here, I just haven't built the dock. The dock is, you can't see it. It's behind this cliff. But I can say there's a dock there. Because the docks are a pain in the arse. Look at this. It's like, it looks like a 2004 era like Civ game. All these little gangplanks or whatever they're called, they have to stick together. And then one of the main issues with this that I have with this incarnate is that you can't easily, you may be able to, and I just don't know it, I have only been using this for 1 day, 2 days, is you can't easily have different levels. So you can have different layers, but different levels. So for example, if I wanted to have the ocean on a lower, what would it be, y-axis in 3D space? Would it be Z? It'd be Z-axis. Lower Z-axis in 3D space. So that I can then make a stepped, kind of setting. You can't. So instead I've had to kind of just rig it so it looks like this is a raised area because of these cliffs. If the cliffs weren't there, it would just look like I've built a wall. But the cliffs do a lot of the work for you. So that's the best solution I've found so far. If there may well be a better one. So, oopsie, didn't mean to do that. Oopsie. Apparently we have 7. It was just 8 people watching. So they can't all be me. So hello to anyone who's watching. Hopefully you're someone who's interested in Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing games, world building, etc., etc. If you have any comments, criticisms, advice on world building, map building in particular, because that's what my current focus is on, because I've always been really lazy and just used other people's maps. But I'm quite keen to get us some custom ones. This is perhaps me going slightly over the top, but if you have any insight, then do feel free to pop a comment. And I'll probably see it. Usually I have Deslin here, and he reads the comments, and he's really on top of it. But unfortunately, Carl and I are both in the middle of activities that draw the attention away. To the extent I can just about finish sentences. So just colouring this in. It really does add a lot to it, having this cliff system. I'm very glad that I figured out how to use it. Because at first it was just weird. I just thought, what the hell is this? Why do I want this? The main problem with the cliff system is it doesn't have them in the order you would expect. You'd expect them to start clockwise and then just work their way around, which is what they do for some of the other objects. They don't. They just have it in some kind of weird order. Now, one thing that I have noticed that I like is some areas where I've got the old texture. It forms like a little beach pattern. So I don't want it quite that strong, though. Let's drop that down to lower percentage and see. So I think that also just adds a little bit of realism to it. There are also little wave like stamps. Do I like that actually? Or do I prefer the sharp cliffs? That's a difficult one. I do not know as of yet. I'll come back to it. So, let's move our placeholder cathedral, which it won't actually be that big, and let's look at our roads. So the road system in this is pretty good. 2 different ways. There's free draw. I have the hand stability of a terrified chipmunk, so I use segments. You can also do a traditional like dots on a path. But for segments, I'm doing it biggest setting because these are big roads. It would be nice if you could kind of like city skyline, like bend roads. Oh, that's just me doing a stupid thing. Right, yeah, if you could bend roads, that would be great. But if you can do that, I don't know how. So I'm just doing it segments. So I want this to roughly line up there. I'm not precious about it being exactly on. So if you hold down Shift, you get the isometric grids. Is it two different ones? Yeah, whatever. So I know that I want it to link up with roughly the middle there. And this is one of the main roads going through. Just make it simple. I always do that. Yeah, you have to press enter or something before you can exit out of it. So let's do that. Okay, road appears. Fantastic. Then the question becomes, what do I name this road? So to keep it nice and simple and easy to read, I'm putting place names in white, like Smith's Guild headquarters, and I'm putting road names in black, and they're sitting atop, if you can imagine such a thing, the road. So let's see how that lines up. Yeah. Okay, so I've got my road here going from the portal area to the fort. In which case I will call it probably way instead of road, and I will call it Garrison Way for now. Yep, nice and simple. I can change these later on really easily if I want to, but it's just to give an idea of what goes on there. Although interestingly, the church and the religious area was meant to be here, so I might move that slightly further up actually, so then it's kind of off the beaten path. Well, it's still a beaten path, but it's not this particular beaten path.
Yeah, so, that way you don't have big armies walking past
yeah,
the church at any given time.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the church. So, what we've said is within this setting, effectively, because there are theoretically infinite number of realms, that means that there are a theoretical infinite number of deities that can be worshipped from cultures and religions going back infinite theoretical amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, if you've got a god that you fancy having for your character to worship, then it's fine. It exists somewhere, and we can kind of hand wave it homebrew style. The main religion, though, within the setting is basically a world origin story. I'm sure there's a proper term for that kind of religion.
The creationism, I guess. Yeah.
It's basically, it deals with how did we get here and what is expected of us. So very similar to the Abrahamic religions in real life. But then the hand waving is made simpler because it just comes down to, well, most religions may seem different, but they all have more or less that same component. So whether that's the Greek or Roman pantheon, or any of the 5e gods and deities, I think can be included in that. Your monotheistic, vague nature spirit stuff you could include in that. So there's kind of one main religious or theocratic organization, but it sees itself as like the focal point for all the disparate different theologies and belief systems. So it's not like how you have different sects in real life,
Mm.
where, okay, to most people who aren't Christian, there's not a huge amount of difference between an Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox Christian and a Roman Catholic Christian.
Yeah.
They're just Christian to most people. So
different varieties and stuff,
yeah,
right?
so there's not so much that, because it's hard to have schisms and compartmentalize yourself when every 13 years you could just meet an entire new religion that has 10 million followers.
Yeah.
Or what have you. So, who's messaging me? Go away. I'm talking. Yeah, so you've got this central theocratic organization that's very open and just kind of sees itself as, I guess, the management of religion rather than the actual promulgation of any one religion. And so I think they would also probably have quite a mighty military presence. Just thinking like paladins and whatnot.
Yeah.
So let's have a look. I was using the Viking settlements. Sorry, Karen.
I do think it makes sense to make that slightly further away from the road.
Yeah.
It looks more right, because it would have been a bit weird. Did you say you're gonna like put some forests and stuff around the?
Yeah. So basically, all the bit I've put in green is going to be a mixture.
Yeah. That's the area.
Yeah, it's going to be fairly sparsely populated. It's basically only used by the guild itself and those that it's training.
Mm-hmm.
So I also like to think that...
Hello, Blank. Chat.
Oh, hey, Blank. How you doing? 5 a.m. Ooh, that's rough.
He has arrived. That is like... Wait, what time zone is that?
Huh?
5 a.m. 5 a.m. time zone? Hold on.
5 a.m. is
That's like extra
India,
plus
I think.
6. Yeah, something like that, yeah.
I'm really bad with time zones.
Around that area.
Is it 5 a.m. is... Okay, we worked this out when we were talking
plus
with
6 hours,
Poyo.
roughly.
That 8 p.m. UK time
India.
is... India. Is 5 a.m. Japan time. That's quicker than us trying to do maths, thank you. We are currently building maps, which is riveting and enjoyable. It's actually quite good. It's kind of like playing a city builder game, really.
Yeah. And those are the best games.
Because it's all isometric. So this is just like loosely populated training facility, basically. It'd be good if they didn't all have snow on them. It's a bit meh. Right. So, yeah, going to multiple place, I could just scatter some of these. That's too many. I don't want to scatter that many. That's too scattered. Just scatter. That'll do. Would they want them that close to the wall, actually? Yeah, building maps is definitely fun. It's one of the areas that I really avoided as a DM, because I'd spend so long thinking about, right, what 50 different options do I have in case my party decide to royally screw up my plans?
Yeah.
That I just couldn't make enough maps. So I'd go and I'd just search for... I think for the orphanage, I just used like an old manor house or something. Well, actually, I think it might be an orphanage, but I just type in orphanage battle map and then find one.
See what comes up.
And then usually it's on Reddit or something, which I'm always loath to go on Reddit, but for things like that, it's pretty good. People contributing things. So, right, where are we? Farms. Farms is what I'm after. Let's have a look at farms. Yeah, it's so pre-made maps are like fantastic. They're lifesavers. But I like the... Wait, is this farms? These are weird-looking farms. They look really random. I like the idea of having our own, like, custom hour thing, if that makes sense. Like, I'm not massively possessive.
Some hour?
Like, as in, it belongs to us. And I'm fine with, like, anyone else using maps that I've made, if they wanted to. I don't know why they would, but... yeah, I think because since we started streaming, thanks to Deslin's suggestion, it's become more of a... It feels like we're building something over a long period of time, rather than just... I don't want to say that we were previously just playing a game, because we were just playing a game. But now it's like, we're, working together on something. It's more of a team effort. Yeah.
Not only in-game, but out-game, right?
Yeah, so you have a lot more discussions around things, rather than just before, when it'd be like, oh, can I have this, please, DM?
Yeah.
I promise I won't abuse it. It won't break the game. I don't know what that is. Some kind of corral. Blank says, just last session we somehow went from being in a hotel, decrypting runes, to undemonifying hot ladies in a faraway, isolated village. I mean,
wow.
That sounds like a good session.
That was like a Monday night.
Yeah, right, I see. I like these ones. These little, they just look like little, like American colonial era.
Yeah, I like those actually. They're very nice.
Cabins. So I suppose there can just be a wide variety of different things, because you don't know what world realm you're going to when you join up.
There could be a witch living there, or there could be a farmer living there, or maybe a hunter.
Yeah. I suppose if you end up in a realm that's just arboreal forest, you're probably not going to be doing much masonry.
Yeah. Precisely.
Right. It's got like a little showroom of houses. So I'm sure there was another farm or something. Was this? Here we go. Crop, they're calling it. And then... So they've got all this pretty nice, like, farmy things. Let's just plant some of these around. This is going to look like a really weird zone, but it's kind of meant to. It's very much a hodgepodge type thing. Pop a few of these. Blank says, now I'll lurk while I decide between coffee or a rock on my head to fall asleep. Have a great time. Add trapped horse somewhere if you can. I've been hiding sheep around on the map, so when I eventually release the map, I'm going to encourage people to try and find the sheep. And there we go. That looks so crap. It looks really bad. Who just...
Can you copy all four and then paste them together?
Yeah, you can group. So I could just do a proper field, couldn't I? Instead of
big ass field,
just a random tract of land. So this is where one of the limitations is it's isometric, but not everything is to precisely the same angles. I think they may have resources from a few different designers, so it doesn't quite line up with the roads, which is fine because this is meant to be like a rough and ready kind of just practice area. But on some of the areas you want it to be just perfect. There you go. I think that looks a bit weird.
Sheep, horse, tomato.
Sheep. I concur entirely.
Yes.
How do you know my true name? You have power over me now.
Wait, that's breakfast.
Sheep, horse, tomato. Right. I'll be honest, this area I'm feeling least good about. Most of them I've been like, okay, that looks good. Like, I've got a sense of knowing roughly what I have to do to get the look I want. And this one, we'll see. I think the trees are going to make it or break it. A lumber mill, right? That seems like a good thing. That should be down here then.
I'm gonna get into this for a minute. It might be quiet again.
That's fine. Enjoy your dubsteps. Windmills. Windmills. I like this. Oh, they have water mills, but there's no water. But can I make water? I think I can. Let's have a look. Right. Close that. I don't know why I made a noise as if that was effort then to close it. So, I'm going to take this area here, and I'm just going to drag it out. It's about there. And then just patch up the hole. So let's do that by going here, go to our shapes. It'll pick up that I'm talking about. I didn't need to do that. Pick up that I'm talking about cliffs. Well, not talking about, using cliffs. And I'm just going to patch in. See, this is what I mean. It's so close to being intuitive, the cliff system, but it's not quite. I'll just stretch this one out. And you do have a bit of leeway with rotating if you can't quite get it matched. But if you rotate too much, like that, then it just looks weird. Not just because it was floating in the middle of nowhere. Right, okay. So now, let's go ahead and get our paintbrush, get our grass, quickly fill this in, starting with edges. Opacity is a thing, apparently. A thing that I seemingly don't fully understand. Fill in, blah, 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 and then we'll find our way to get water to our thirsty trainee colonists before they get, flung into the far corners of the known universe, no doubt to die horrible deaths. So in the campaign so far, the reason why the Colonist Guild is important is because in one of their first ever adventures, but basically the second or third session, I think, they got railroaded. But this is my first time GMing, really. So the first few sessions were a bit raw in terms of pacing. We're in more of a groove now. But they got more or less railroaded into going to a forest, well, a bog technically, but they had to go through a forest. In that forest, they found a forest spirit, which makes sense because it's a forest. And that spirit basically was guarding a number of acorns, which the party rightly deduced are effectively eggs for that creature. So it's young. It was understandably protective. What's the best way to do this? Do I do the source of the water first, or do I do the water itself? I think I'm going to do the source. So I'm going to put in a waterfall. So anyway, they found, basically, once they completed the quest and cleared the... that's a tiny waterfall. Cleared the bog of bandits, or brigands, I should say. See, that seems too... Right. Let me stop talking and think about how to actually do this, because that looks crap. Does it have to be coming out the top? Is the question. Get it? No, why are you long? Stop it. Right, open catalog. Let's do this again. Go here. There you go. So I'm going to say, basically, because these walls are more or less hollow. In fact, I can make it look better than that. I can make a little aqueduct. So they got these egg things, right, from the the forest spirit creature, friend, foe, we didn't really establish. And they consulted with the gnomes that they had liberated as to what these acorns do. The gnomes were a bit cagey about it. Sorry, just realised I want one of these. And they planted one, and they found that it grew very quickly, and that it seemed to accelerate growth of verdant things. Fast-growing magic acorn, basically. And the Colonist Guild pay a pretty penny for these things because they have a habit every 13 years of going to realms that are potentially entirely desolate and never had a living organism on it, and creating new habitable realms and resource gathering and whatnot. Basically standard survival type game thing. What the hell am I looking for? Here we go. Babylon. So, which of these looks most appropriate? What about you? Oh, that's tiny. That's itty bitty. Let's try just the wall, or do I want like an aqueduct? That could be kind of cool. Let's try that. So I want this to be a reasonable size. Doesn't have to be massive, just, good chunky chunk. And then let's pop it there. And then, now this is where it gets more difficult. I want this to be on top of that one. Unfortunately, the algorithm, whatever it is, that's telling it where to pop stuff, sometimes it doesn't handle it very well. So you have to manually override it. You can do that over here with the layer control. I put that into a lower layer, and then this one now sits on top. Good. Put that there. And then if we now take these two, I'm going to copy them and just widen it out a little bit. Copy them again. Widen it out a little bit. And then take these bottom three. Will it let me? I don't think it will. No, that's fine. Take that one, paste it in. Pop it there, and again. So just lining these up. Nice and neat. Well, comparatively neat. Not the messiest. So, if I go back to my waterfalls, let's find one at the right angle. Yeah, it can be slightly smaller. Smaller still. Let's try 28. 20 seems to be a pretty good number. That'll do. So that should just hide behind the remainder there. There we go. And then one more. Back down to 20. Okay. We now have a... Why won't it let me change that? That's slightly frustrating. But well. We now have a waterfall. That'll do. So that's pumping water up through the walls here in the guard area, and it's sending it cascading down this weird little aqueduct thing so that we can have a river. So let's find Do we have a river texture? We don't. Do we have just normal water textures? We do. Rivers should be quite light, I think. If I prefer almost transparent. This is grey though. Don't like that. This could be a problem. Because ice and snow... Ice, 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 ice. Unsurprisingly, ice and snow has a lot of ice. Ocean. Okay, the pirate ones. Let's have a look at the light one. Yeah, see, that doesn't really look rivery, does it? What colour are rivers? So I want the texture effect. Let's see what other textures they have. There's just snow. I suppose it will be feeding out into the ocean, so... That'll do. So, this also presents us with a rather frustrating problem, which is that in order to make the river look good, we need to basically do our edge ridging. What do you call it? Cliffs. That's what I'm after, cliffs. So, we do our cliffs. We click. We type. We click again. This time, we're going to make them small. We're going to do 10s, which is the smallest it goes to. And we're just going to build a very short river. So... it's going to have like a little pool. Alright. Going to coalesce this round. Okay, we need a little itty bitty one. Maybe not that one. What shape do we need here? That one? No. See, and this is where the frustrations come in. Maybe it's my brain. Oh, there you go. He'll do. Okay. So we have our initial starting point, and then we're going to just slowly... Nope. Start to build this river up. Now, it doesn't have to be big, as in long, but I want it reasonably meandering. I want it to feel like it's a properly organic river rather than something that's man-made. Looking for... what am I looking for? That seems the wrong... I've got the angles mixed up. Duh. So, at this point, it'll swap to become one of these, I think. And then it'll just work its way out down to over here. Just pop another one. This will be kind of the opposite side here. Already had that one. So you need to keep some variety in it, otherwise they will just very quickly look like a repeating pattern. That looks distinct enough. And it's just adding like a final bend to the shape here. I'm going to want that to come in, so I actually need to remove the bit with the river here. So let's just try this. How's that look? A little bit wonky, maybe. But I've definitely seen worse cliffs. Having spent absolutely no time considering cliffs as a concept. Try rotating him slightly. No, I want that to kick out more. Okay, and then let's just try. And just merge those. Oh, that works quite nicely. Right. That needs to go a bit more vertical. So we've kind of done the one bank of the river. Let's move on to the other one. So up here, the waterfall. Remember, this is at 10, so it's quite shallow. And then it coalesces quite quickly into a narrower shape. And I want some bits to actually be quite windy, so I'm just going to place some of these. And also remembering the perspective of the map. That if you are... the camera is at this position, there's going to be various bits blocked from your view. So the plus side of that is it means you don't really have to worry about it. But the downside is it means that you can quickly run out of... Like if you're trying to do something quite narrow, it can be difficult to have enough space to showcase exactly what it is that you want to show. Oh, that's a nice fit. So it starts off wide and then quickly narrows down into this. So what I'm wondering now is, let's actually bring up the mill and see roughly where it's going to fit. So we have a watermill. We have a couple of watermills. That's good. I like this one. So if he were to have his thing there, okay, and maybe they all seem to have the wheels on the same side except for this one. So let's put him there. And then I'm going to leave the mills, those mills. Let's put up some windmills in. There's some pretty little windmilling. Okay, so we have windmills. I just need to polish up this last little bit. Let's go ahead and find... Where are you? Why are you hiding from me? Where'd you go? There it is. Okay. Just finish up this. If I can. This is frustratingly difficult. Okay, there, that'll do. So I think that a general rule, although I don't know if I can really call it a general rule, is that if one side is showing the shadow like this, then the other side probably shouldn't. That's just what I've been working on, the presumption of. I could be wrong, but I'm probably not. Right, it gets nice and narrow there. Opens up a little bit. It's narrow again. Okay. I think that is good enough. Now I've got to colour it. And this is the particularly annoying part. If I try and match the water of there, is it actually going to look like a river? Because it is literally just ocean water that's being pumped up. It's not actually... Although that does look... That looks pretty good from a distance. So is the water is like agitated, and so there's lots of oxygen bubbles, and therefore it's white, and then as it gets further down, it loses some of that. I think that makes sense. Let's just try blue. And then kind of changing into this. So this is the actual ocean colour. Let's start there. Although if the inlet is going out, then it should be external. Right, okay, I think I understand what I'm going to do. I'm going to go in and I'm going to blend between that white and this blue. So again, being reasonably careful. It's fairly forgiving. And then this will be basically feeding out into the ocean. Like that. Okay. Little tiny makeshift man-made river. Not what I thought I would be doing today. At nearly midnight. Oh god, it's nearly midnight. Okay, so we have our little blue for our little river. I think that looks pretty nice. But we can make it look nicer. So I'm going to get this colour, the like shallow ocean colour. I'm going to up the size slightly and make it transparent and just start to work this. And then again, making it transparent. There you go, that'll do. And then the same thing over here. Keeping it transparent, blending the two colours in together. Turn it down a bit. And then swap to the white. Turn the transparency really low. And then just feather it. Turn that back up. And make it small just to do these bits. This bit needs to be really light coloured. There's a lot of agitation. Same around the edges. I think they'd be slightly more agitated. Turn it down. Okay, let's see how that looks. I think from a distance especially, that looks good. Up close, not perfect. So we have our little mills. Now we need some trees. This is painting. I don't want painting, I want stamping. So we're going to go stamping for trees. It would be quite nice to have hills here actually, but I just don't think there's enough space for it. That seems a little bit too ambitious for what we're dealing with. Let's stick to trees. So, what kind of tree? I'd like just the conifers, but we may be, or should there be all sorts of trees? In fact, there should probably be just a swamp biome kind of thing. oak trees, sequoias, palm trees, bamboo trees, jungle trees. Oh, willow trees. How nice. Well, there should be some of those by the river. That looks pretty. I mean, it's salt water, so I don't know as a willow tree would actually be growing there. More likely to be a mangrove, but whatever. A swamp area. Do I have a swamp brush? Swamp. There is no swamp. Okay, that's fine. I can adapt around the lack of swamp. Speaking of swamps, I made a habit of speaking about Shrek most of these sessions. My main contribution for this week's Shrek thoughts is how... Hold on one second. That's not right. No, that's not right. How come Lord Farquaad got eaten, right, in the first film? As in, like, eaten by a dragon. He's definitely dead. Let's do autumn. Look at palm trees there. That doesn't really add up. Oh well. But that's it. I think that is too harsh a punishment, because the other villains in the series, they don't get treated supportly. Just my 2 cents. So we want the density high here, because it's like a forest. I mean, that may be slightly too high. Okay, let's just... I mean, it's very pretty, but it's just hiding everything. So I'll just do it on the blank parts for now. So it comes up with the alert. You've made a lot of changes. Consider saving your work. I will do. It will take a while because my computer is ancient and crap. And I will drink some drink while doing it. So yeah, I do think that Lord Farquaad got a slightly too harsh punishment, because he's already lost his kingdom and he's a laughingstock. So they could have just exiled him. In fact, what happened to Prince Charming in the second one? What did they do to him? I forgot. Right, that goes there. Fine. Okay, let's make these slightly less dense, just so that we can see the buildings through them. There you go. Better. Now, I do feel like they wouldn't be allowed to have this stuff right up to the walls. So I'm going to have to correct that. It's probably easy to just put loads in and then just go through and delete the ones that are on paths, or just move them. Actually, I quite like that. It's a little tree in the middle of the field. See that sometimes. Just move them around a bit. It's fine to have them around the houses, but we don't want to crowd the houses out. And we especially don't want them on the fort thing. So yeah, people are allowed to come and use this foresty area for recreation, as long as they don't get in the way, which they probably do. And select you. Yeah, I think that they're not allowed to have any trees too close to the wall. I mean, really, the wall is used to keep people in, I suppose, rather than out. I don't know how much I like this. I don't know. Right. Let's turn up the density again. Maybe I do want it all the way up to the wall. I know it's not very tactical, but I think it just looks nicer. Right. Let's clean this up a bit. Okay, just moving all these little trees out the way. One of the annoying things with the trees, unfortunately, is that if you get a multicolored set like this, and you have just a row of oranges all together, nice and neat, it will look naff, and everyone will mock you. So you've got to just do a little bit of fine tuning. Especially if you end up with two trees that are very similar right next to each other. It can look a bit like just a repeating texture. Which I suppose it is really, but we don't want people to know that. We want to give the impression that it's this organic farm village thing that has sprung up over hundreds, if not thousands of years. Learn to farm and build and live bucolic and picturesque lives. Apparently have trees in the middle of their fields because that's how you grow vegetables. You city farmers. And how's this house doing? That's fine. Just checking there's no trees in the houses. This is like a foresty bit, so if they're crowded in, then it's not the end of the world. Now, the lumber mill probably shouldn't have trees growing in the courtyard. Although that might be useful. And obviously they follow best sustainable logging practice here. And then a slightly sparser woodland area over here. Okay, I think that's looking a bit better. Still, I think my least favourite of the areas on the map. But there always has to be a least favourite. So it may as well be the colonists. They're not the most integral of guilds. Right, there's a few more to move out of the way. Okay. I think that's looking rather nice. Now, last few touches before I think we can say that this section is done. I want to turn that up all the way. And let's just expand the greenery out a little bit. Because of course, in real life, a woodland area doesn't start being green right at the tree line. Okay. Now what I think I want to do for paths here, quite quickly, is I might actually free draw these. They need to be 2 or a 3 or a 1. Right, they need to be a 1. So I just want a little path going, connecting all of these up, kind of meandering through, and maybe another one going round. You know, just adding a little bit of interest to the area. It's gonna everything meets over here, and then this all comes along here, and then I think we need a little bridge, don't we? Be a little simple, humble bridge, ideally wooden one. These are all fairly fancy bridges. I just want a simple one, but I guess we're going with stone. I want to apply a single stone bridge. I want it to be a small stone bridge. And I want it to be there. Which may mean we need to move this willow. Oh god, I'm moving the thing. That's foolish. Most foolish. So, what is happening here? What is this? That's the bridge. Why is the bridge? Ah, I think it's... There we go. So, little bridge. There you go. And then this little footpath that way. So, I think... Oh, wait. No, we need to do the footpaths over here. Let's just quickly link these up. Come round. I'm not happy with that one. And also, there are still trees all over this fort. Let's get rid of some of them. Okay. Let's link that up there. There. I think with that, we are good to go on this section. Actually, I do want to plant something, put something over here. There's like a little empty space. Empty space usually looks better when it's filled. But I think we've grown quite a bit of the map. I'll just grab some. Do these actually really need, except for the main building? call this Colonists Guild. Just put it there. Okay. Yeah, I need to put a little bit there, but I think that has... So zoomed in, it doesn't look that great, but when you bring it out to the rest... I'll need to think of a name for this area, but I think for now, we've again added quite a bit in. So, save. Are you there, Carl?
Yes.
Ah, cool. I'm probably going to go to bed, because it's
That
late
is
and I'm
fair.
tired. And I think...
I'm probably going to go to bed soon, too.
Yeah, we had 9 people watching, so if any of them are still watching...
Yeah, it was 10 at one point.
Ooh. Thank you for watching.
I
If you
saw.
want to see maps, not this one's not finished yet, in use, then tune in for our D&D session. The next one of which is tomorrow, 8 p.m. UK time. And it's always very good fun, so you're very welcome. But other than that, thanks for anyone who watched, and thank you, Carl, for joining me. And I'm sure I will get around
Somewhat quietly, but
yeah, to building this map more in the future. And thanks, Blank, for hanging around and shouting sheep, horse, tomato, tomato. Oh,
sheep,
tomato,
horse,
tomato. Oh, I just got it. Sheep, horse, tomato, tomato.
Oh.
Yeah, I see what you did there. Cool. I'll have a good night,
Potato, potato.
evening, day, whatever, for everyone. All right.